Welcome to Momentum's virtual training series, where we invite expert facilitators to share their knowledge on topics that advance women in leadership.
I own my own consulting practice, was flying all over the country with working with my clients. And about 2 years ago, just decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I had spent a lot of time observing really busy executives, and I saw the stress that they were under trying to manage, excelling in their career and still being present and available for everything else going on in their private life. And I knew I could do something about that. And I founded HUM Concierge. We help give our clients back discretionary time by taking on the really time-consuming tasks that are on their to-do lists, and getting them done at the same level they would get them done. And that frees up their time to focus on what's most important to them. Am I unstable, Darla?
You're
Let me
good now.
see.
You're good now, though.
All right, just hang on. See if I can close some things, if that helps. Okay. I'll just keep going until you tell me not to.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm not here to talk about HUM today. I am here to talk about time and its relationship to the burnout epidemic that we are all living under. And where did my screen just go? Sorry. There. Still unstable?
You're good now.
Okay, great. Good. All right. So I'm here to talk about time and its relationship to that burnout epidemic that we all know and experience and live with every day. And I like that you caught yourself, Darla, because I don't believe in time management. People ask me all the time if I coach on time management or help people with time management. And I actually don't believe in time management because I don't believe time can be managed into being something that it's not. Time is finite. It is what it is, and nothing we do is going to make it turn into something that it is not capable of being. It's finite. Now, we can introduce some efficiencies and we can make better choices and all of that, but it's not going to be managed. And we keep trying, like we double down. When we can't make it be what we want it to be, we double down and try even harder to make it deliver something that it cannot deliver. And to me, that's a toxic relationship. We're trying to make it give us something it cannot give us. So it's that toxic relationship that I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about today, because somehow we think we're the problem because we can't make it do something. That's a failure on our part. And it's not a failure on our part. It's a concrete thing. It's not going to move. It's not going to change. And so I want to give everybody a blessing that you can let go of not being able to make time do something that it's not ever going to do. That creates so much of the stress and overwhelm and burnout that we all experience. So I'm going to I'm going to read a few statements to you. You may or may not recognize yourself or other people in these statements. You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to acknowledge that they apply to you at all. You can just make a mental note. And they're statements that might indicate that you are experiencing some stress, overwhelm, burnout, and some time stress. My dog. So sorry. So here we go. Number 1, your calendar is full of meetings and obligations placed there by others with no time or space in between. Number 2, your highest priorities go unaddressed day after day because your time is given elsewhere. Number 3, you feel rushed all the time, yet there is still not enough time to meet all of the demands. Number 4, you're exhausted, but you can't sleep. You don't have a stopping point in your work each day. Number 6, you don't have a break between meetings, projects, or trips. Number 7, you don't have any time to think or reflect or recharge. And number 8, your family or friends are noticing and feeling the effects of distraction, inattention, and absence. And then there's one more scenario I'm going to talk you through that may or may not be based on real life experience of some people that I know. It goes like this. You arrive 30 minutes late to a meeting because you left the hairdressers 20 minutes late, because you dropped your kids off at school 10 minutes late, because when you got in the car, you didn't have any gas. And when you went to the gas station, you realized you'd left your purse. That may or may not have actually happened to me and may or may not sound familiar to anyone. But if any of those things sound familiar, I'm super excited to introduce you to a concept called margin. Is there anybody on the call who is familiar with the idea of having margins in your life? Anybody? You can just raise your hand in the chat or say, yes, me, or here's what I know about it. Anybody? I'm trying to watch the chats and, oh, good. So let me see who got
So for me, the for me personally, learning about margin was first introduced to me, quite honestly, was in a sermon. But then past that, I had
Yep.
several other businesses that followed suit over the next few months talking about margin. So yes.
Excellent. Well, we're gonna do a dive into margins and why I believe that they are actually the cure for burnout. Margins are the white space, like on paper. Margins are the white space in our lives that we 100% control. It's time we 100% control and can use for rest and recharging. White margins allow us to be present where we are, or as Coach Saban says, be where your feet are planted instead of being rushed, distracted, or even angry. It's where we get off that hamster wheel that we always feel like we're on, where we can't seem to stop. And it's where we fill ourselves up. It's that space. And it not only allows us to do that, it allows us to the time and space to see and appreciate others and to see and appreciate ourselves. So it's that white space. And in my mind, and we'll dive into this a little bit deeper a little later on, margins are non-negotiable. We must have that space, and we must have that space every day. And I know there might be some pushback. If there's anybody who is hung up on being productive, if I'm awake, that would be me. And I think that if I'm awake, I need to be accomplishing something. I need to be productive. And if I'm too tired to be accomplishing something or being productive, I will do something mindless, like scrolling through social media in order to relax. Some of you may have a little bit of experience about that with that. But here's the truth. We've got to have margins. If we don't have margins, we are absolutely going to suffer from burnout. But here's the thing. The world doesn't want us to have margins. We're women. We are the doer of the things. We are the maker of the holiday magic. We are the ones who just figure out how to get 16,000 things done in a day. And the world likes it like that, right? Like, why would they want it any different? So the world does not want us to have margins. And so because most of us are people pleasers, we're like, okay, I guess we aren't going to have any, and we'll just, figure it all out and carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, like the myth of Atlas. The only problem is we're not as strong as Atlas. And if we don't have margins, or if we don't have the time to put the world down for a little bit, breathe, recharge ourselves before we pick it back up, we will be crushed under the weight of it because we're not strong enough to hold the world on our shoulders all the time. And if you hear my dog giving up background vocals, I apologize. There's some toy she wants me to get for her, and I'm not going to get it. So here's a question that I want. I would love to, because this is a group of, you are all professionals. You've been to seminars, you've read books, you've seen the articles, all the things. I would love to hear the ideas you've learned about that will fight stress and overwhelm and burnout. What are some of the cures that you have heard about, or try, or have incorporated into your day? Get outside. I like that.
So I take technology breaks on the weekend. So I won't use social media, or I'll limit
Oh, that's fantastic.
the amount of, screen time in general.
Excellent. Excellent. I see self-care. I see conversing with colleagues, prioritizing health. What else? Block time on the calendar for yourself. Yep. Turn the phone off. No social media on the weekends. Good, good, good. These are all really great. And ones that I know about too. Ooh, silence. I love that. Learning to say no. Yep. What else? Anybody else? Okay. Here's what, and this, I
wanted to bring up too here. I like what Alicia said. She just put this in: exercise, no tech Saturdays. I like that.
Yeah.
And I know one thing that we encourage around here, and it's kind of hard because if you're at a workplace where you're also trying to get things done, but you're also friends and you want to include people in things afterwards, I think that is fine. But for us here, we really try to encourage each other. Don't send an email out, but if you do, please make sure you put in there, hey, you don't have to respond. If you wake up at 3 a.m. and you remember, oh my gosh, I got to get this out. One thing I have done is I will maybe type the email, but I'll go in there and I'll put on, you can put when you send the emails. And I'll put on there that it is to be sent out, the next morning at 8, not now at 3 a.m. So,
right. And we'll talk about some of that stuff because it's crucial. It's really crucial. But here's what I want to get at. These are all really great ways to address the stress and the overwhelm and all of that. But how many of you feel like failures if you're not able to do those things? Or how many of you would do them if you just knew where you would get the time to do them? I'm not able to see the chat right now, Darla, so you'll have to give me some.
So for me right now, it depends on the situation. Some things that are more weighty, yes, I do feel like, oh, how did I forget that? Or why am I not doing that? Other things I'm like, it's not that important. I can get it done tomorrow. Some of the answers have been maybe not a failure, but certainly disappointed in yourself. There's a laughter face. So evidently it must be either Brandy, it doesn't bother you at all, or you're like, oh yes, I'm overwhelmed with all of the guilt.
Yep, I'm seeing some thumbs up. I can see a little bit. I see some thumbs up. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think as women, sometimes we're really hard on ourselves. And if we're not able to do all the things, including taking good care of ourselves, we're somehow to blame for that, right? Somehow, mom guilt, wife guilt, self-guilt. Yep, all of those things. And so I believe that in my heart and soul that what's causing our stress, our overwhelm, isn't not just doing those things. It's our relationship with time, and specifically our choices or lack of choices around what we do with that time. One of the things that I hear people say sometimes, and they're like, everybody's got the same 24 hours a day. I'm like, no. Beyonce's got a whole different kind of 24 hours in her day than I have, right? Like she's got personal trainers and chefs and babysitters and nannies and, her from my 24 hours. But I still think it's our relationship with time. Am I unstable again, Darla?
Just a little bit, but that's okay. Keep going. You're good.
Okay. It's our relationship with time and the choices we make around it that are really at the heart, because we can do that. We may not want to, we may not want to exercise our choices sometimes, or we feel like we don't have choices sometimes, but it's that choice in time and our expectations about time that really are at the core. Our stress. Who's laughing? Why are you laughing? Is that Lindsay?
You did great.
And that's what you may
You did
recognize
great.
that. I froze.
Just a second. It was a cute pose though.
Oh, I hope I didn't
No, it was cute. It was
because
so
it's
cute.
usually like that when you freeze, isn't it?
So one thing that Clifford, I want to ask you this too, because this is a good thing
Sure.
that Clifford just put in. I don't see him. Is he still there? Is Clifford still here?
I
He put
am.
it there that he said, I don't think it's just women. Oh, there you are, Clifford. That it could be that it's leaders too. And I agree.
I agree with that.
Yes, I think it's leaders overall. Yes.
I
Good
agree
point,
with that.
Clifford.
Women, we just as women have, we decide to take it all personally and take all the responsibility, whether it's ours to take or not. It's just
That's
something that is innate to many women. I'm not saying all women, but we tend to be open. So if we can get back to the ability to create those margins, that white space, which is where choices begin, our burnout will start, and stress and overwhelm will start to lessen. So let's talk about some things that get in the way. What gets in the way of being able to create margins? Specifically, I'm talking about you individually, people who are listening, 74 people who are listening. What gets in the way? What prevents you from being able to create that white space, create those margins for some of the things that we talked about, for self-care, for doing myself? And that's honest. Deadlines. Yep. Mindset. Other people's demands. Yep. Developing priorities. Yep. Seeing some of this go by. If you see, they're going by so fast, Darla. If you see something particular,
well,
please say it.
One thing that does stand out is kids. You're right. Kids of younger ages and everything. I mean, you're just drained. You are their caretaker. You are responsible for everything for them. When they get to a certain age, helping them to understand how you are handling time and teaching them that at a younger age, especially teenagers. I think everything that we're learning today would be something that'd be fantastic, especially during the holidays, to start applying and helping everyone at home. Someone said me and feeling failure for not getting everything done, time management and rush deadlines from your team, your team's needs, competing priorities. Yes, all of these things.
All of the things. I don't have the slide. I'm working on a different presentation about time. And there's a group called the Decision Lab who studied a gajillion people. And what they learned was that on average, an average person has 1 hour and 15 minutes of discretionary time in their day. 1 hour and 15 minutes for exercise, for socializing, for hobbies, for sitting and doing nothing and staring at the wall and watching the paint peel, which is my favorite thing to do with my margins. We have 1 hour and 15 minutes a day.
Wow.
And everything, what's included in the rest of the day is everything: sleep, work, commuting, kids, chores, managing food, all of the things that are required of us. All of the things that are required.
Joey White said, now I feel more pressured.
Oh no, you're not supposed to feel more pressure. No.
That reality window is harsh.
Yeah, it is. It's really hard. People are like, are you sure? And I'm like, show me where I'm wrong, where the data's wrong. Also, for those general published said, 47% of parents feel so stressed they can't function most days. 43% of parents describe their stress as overwhelming. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. So the data is not supposed to make you have more pressure. It's to help you feel like, oh, I'm not alone. This is the experience of so many people. I'm not the failure here. This is the reality of the world right now. So I'm pretty sure I've done a good job of convincing you that having margins is essential. It's not a nice to have. People are like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have margins? Like, no. Your critical health and well-being, it's essential that you have this white space that is yours. And some of the other things that we might not think about that can get in the way of what little white space we can create: noisy distractions, phone and tech going off all the time, social media, news. Just I get onto one of my sons all the time, because he's got to have noise going all the time, and I'm like, that's gonna make me crazy. Just any noise, and that's distracting. But we also, because of our innate desire to please people, we say yes to way more things than we should. We have the time or capacity to say yes to. And then that's why we don't even have an hour and 15 minutes. We got 0. Because we've said yes to so many people. So now that we've talked about how gruesome the situation is, let's talk about some solutions. I do love No Tech Saturday. My children are not allowed to bring tech to the table ever.
Good.
When we go out to eat, phones do not come out. Not mine, not anybody's. Those are my boundaries. They don't have to be yours, but I create some really hard and fast boundaries around the things that I know are going to start eating into the time that I want to spend on things that really matter to me, like talking to my children. Okay, so first, you have to decide. You're the only person who can decide that having margins in your day are important. You're the only person who can decide that. Nobody else is going to decide for you, and nobody else is going to put boundaries around them. Believe me, if you decide you're going to have margins and you carve those out and you put boundaries around them, there are going to be people who do not like that. Like any other boundary we set up. They're like, but wait, you've always said yes. You've always been the one. You've always done this. And they're not going to like it when you're like, no, I can't do that because this is more important to me. You have to communicate those margins, probably more than once, for some people more than 10 times. This is my time, and I'm not gonna, because here's the thing: if you make those margins those boundaries loosey-goosey, they will cease to exist. They will evaporate faster than you can possibly imagine. So you have to communicate your margins to other people. We can't expect people to read our minds that, no, suddenly you're not going to be room mom for the 13th year in a row. You're not going to be in charge of the Christmas party this year. You're not going to chair that committee. You're not even going to be on the committee. That's a hard no. but you have to communicate those. You have to communicate those boundaries. And the last thing that I want to do, and I'm going to turn this into a prettier handout that Darla can send out if that's a thing that can be done.
Yes.
It's a list of 11 things, practical things that we can do to help create more space, more white space in our days. We can do things like no tech Saturday. One of the things that I like to do on Sunday, think about my Monday. One of my rituals on Sunday is to fill my gas tank every Sunday so that I'm not worried about whether or not I have gas. Every Sunday. I don't care if I've got only need to put an eighth of a tank in there. I don't care. It's full when I wake up on Monday morning. But I think about that. And I try to think about my week ahead. But I also try to kind of turn that on its ear. I think about my Sunday on the Monday before. Like on Monday, I'm thinking about what I want my Sunday to look like so that I'm protecting it. I'm arranging my work. I'm arranging my schedules so that nothing's going to interfere with what I want to do on Sunday or how I want to manage Sunday or what if I'm going to have a no tech Sunday. I'm thinking about that on Monday because it takes that kind of vigilance to make sure my Sunday has margins around it and has boundaries around it. If you're not thinking about what you want your Sunday to look like and what those margins are going to be until you wake up on Sunday, it's lost. That game is lost. So it requires thinking ahead. We have to learn how to say no. Now people are like, but how do I say no? Well, first, no period is a complete sentence. We all know that. But there are ways if you need a better way to put it, I've read things like, it's just not my season for that right now. Or I'm sorry, I have different priorities right now. I can't say yes. Things like that. But we have to get comfortable saying no, and we have to get comfortable with people being disappointed, angry, coming back, trying to convince you not to say no, all the things. We have to be comfortable with that too. Were you going to say something, Darla?
The first time that I ever did a Sunday where I was going to actually unplug and be very mindful about just not doing anything, I literally had to schedule how I was going to do that the very first day because that's not my nature. I'm like you. I'm very work centered. And if there's nothing to do, I will find something to get done or to create something to do. And therefore, I don't ever rest or calm down or allow myself to just reflect because I'm staying so busy. And Sarah, you're right. If you don't, until you get into those habits and and help everyone around you to understand your new habits, putting those on a calendar. And like I said, for me, I had to time block it. And it was it was really awkward the first time I did that. That felt funny that I've got a schedule, and what I had in my time was to take a nap or read or just rest. And
Yep.
But now I really
Here are the things I'm going to do. Here are the things I'm going to do with that day, right? I remember one time I was in this was a long time ago, but I was in a conversation with somebody and they were like, well, hey, what do you like to do for fun? I couldn't answer because it'd been so long since I'd actually made time for fun. I was like, I don't know. What do I think is fun? I mean, I could give them like some generic canned answers, but what did I actually think would be fun? I don't know. So that was kind of a wake up call for me. All right, let's keep going. Number 3, do whatever you have to do to limit social media. There are apps that you can download that will literally, you set how much time you want your social media app to be open, and it will log you out after that much time. You have to actually remember your password and log back in to be able to use that social media. I know people who use it and they say it can be frustrating, but it makes a huge difference in their world. I know people who wake up and reach for their phone and start scrolling. That not only eats into your white space, it's scientifically proven that that is just a really, that's hard on our bodies. It's hard on our emotions. It's hard on our mental state. I haven't quite graduated to putting my phone in another room yet, but I do have it across the room when I go to bed so that I can't just reach for it and pick it up. It's plugged in somewhere else. Don't compare your capacity. My capacity is different than Darla's capacity, right? I have a son in college. I have a 15-year-old. My capacity just looks different. It's like I said, my capacity very different from Beyonce's capacity. And it doesn't serve me at all to get into a comparison game. I should be able to do that. I should be able to manage all of that. That doesn't serve you, doesn't serve me, it doesn't serve any of us very well. Put up immovable boundaries and fiercely protect them. We're all good about, oh yeah, I'm going to put a boundary around that. But then just the right person says just the right thing, and that boundary evaporates. So we have to be willing to fiercely protect them. Oh, this plays into what I just said. Consider what brings you joy. I didn't know the answer to that question when somebody asked me. I didn't know. If we don't know what actually do we want will give us joy to do in our margins, then they're not really very valuable and worth protecting. So we have to think about what's going to fill me up? What am I going to do with that white space? And it may be sit and stare at the wall, which is what I do sometimes. Maybe it. But you have to think about it, or they're not worth defending. Ask for help and delegate. One of the most surprising things to me when I first started HUM was having conversations with women who had a much longer, they didn't want to ask or acknowledge that they needed help. I should be able to do it. So-and-so can do it all, so I should be able to do it all. So we have to be willing to ask for help, and we have to be willing to delegate. You don't have to delegate to HUM. You can delegate to whomever you want to delegate to. I tried delegating to my teenagers. That just creates more stress for me. So I don't do that. But you have to be able to delegate some of the things that are on your plate to somebody else. And if they don't do them exactly the way you would do them, that's okay. I used to get mad at my son for the way he loaded the dishwasher. And then I realized that if I kept getting mad at him, he was not going to want to load the dishwasher. I would rather have it loaded than loaded the way I wanted it loaded. Right?
Exactly.
But we have to be able to do that. Think harmony. Think about harmonizing your work life and home life rather than balancing. Balancing implies that somehow, someday, it's all going to look like, the scales are going to look like this. And that's never going to happen. They're going to be like this. They're going to be like this. Somebody's always, and so if we're aiming for that, we're never going to get there. So how do we bring it into harmony? That's a different question. I've talked about this. You've got to schedule your margin. When is it? When are you going to carve that out? When we think about our days, sometimes our days are sprints. Sometimes our days are more like jogs. But either way, we have to rest. If we're going to sprint or jog, we still have to have rest in there. And this number 11 is actually one of my favorites. If we want others to honor our margins, we have to be willing to honor the margins of others. If somebody says, no, I can't do that. No, it's not a priority for me right now. Honor that and respect it. Because if they said that, it's really hard to say that. So honor that and respect that so that others will honor and respect the margins that you've carved out. And that's my favorite. So now what I would love to do, my dog, y'all want to see my dog? Amazing. Are you gonna come up?
Oh,
I know. She insists on margins. There's no not having margins with her around. What I'd love to do now is sort of open it up to questions. Where are you challenged with applying all that we just talked about? Where are you challenged in making that a reality in your world, in your day?
Sarah, one thing that one of the ladies mentioned that I know there's a lot of moms on here and talk about how hard it is to set margins and have the quiet time when you do have children. So I think giving some good suggestions in that and how to delegate some of that responsibility maybe to your partner. If you are a single mom, maybe have some friends or see if some family or somebody else would, watch them even for a couple of hours so you could just maybe wander around the grocery store quietly and just get what you want to get.
Yeah, going to the grocery store alone. I remember when my children were small, going to the grocery store alone was like decadent.
Yes. Yes.
It was decadent.
It was like spa day.
It really was. It really was. And I get that. And again, I think part of that is creating realistic expectations for ourselves about what kind of mom we want to be. Right now, you can't be on social media or read a magazine or watch TV without seeing the moms who are, whipping up homemade costumes and cakes, and they're doing all the homework and they're in the floor playing the games. That's what we see. And we think that we should be able to do all of those things along with all of our other responsibilities. So we need to have a conversation with ourselves about what's realistic to expect from ourselves. And that's true for anything, not just parenting. What's a realistic expectation given all the other demands on my time? It's okay to teach your children to entertain themselves. It's okay to let them watch a video or 5. It's okay for those things to happen. It's okay if you've got a play group. It's okay. I did this all the time. I was a single mom and running my consulting practice. I would call moms of my children's friends and be like, hey, would it be okay? I'll treat if you can take them for ice cream, or if you can, whatever it is, so that I can focus on what I need to focus on. So yeah, I mean, this isn't how do you build a support system around parenting, but those are at the fundamental thing is to create realistic expectations for yourself around what kind of parent you can be and what's important to be involved in. Is it more important to be at their soccer game, or is it more important to whip up a homemade birthday cake and throw a wedding for a birthday party? Which is what's more important? And deciding those things for yourself ahead of time. We do not make good decisions when we're in the middle of it. We have to decide ahead of time what's more important to us. So that's the parenting. What was the other thing you asked me about, Darla?
I think that was
how to delegate.
Yeah.
How to delegate. Well, the trick is to find people who will actually do what you delegate to them, right? Which is why my teenagers and I get sideways of each other sometimes, because I delegate things to them and they may or may not get done. And so I think we have to be real. Again, I love the word realistic today. We have to be realistic about who we're delegating to and our expectations of the people we're delegating to. You don't want to delegate to somebody and expect them to a college kid, for example, or your teenager, and expect them to be able to figure out how to do something they've never done before, or to do it well if they've only done it a few times. So, deciding who you're going to delegate it to. Somebody is saying margins. I can't see that, Darla,
Tips
in the
for our
chat.
superior buy into our margins.
What? Oh, getting your supervisor to buy into your margins. I actually have coached that. When I was a consultant, I used to have to coach that. And as hard as it may be, and I know sometimes it's easier in some environments than it is in others. Oh, there's my dog. To say, here are the priorities that you and I have agreed on. If I add one more thing, is there something here that I can let go of? And involve them in that conversation. Because sometimes bosses don't know that they've given you 2,500,000 things to do in a day. So at least bringing them into that conversation allows them to own a little bit of that. And if they're not willing to have that conversation, that's a whole nother conversation for us to have. They have to be willing to be in that conversation.
I think that's a great statement to make with like with your spouse of, hey, we've got soccer this week. We've got church, we've got your in-laws, birthday party we got to be at. And now you want me to make sure that the oil gets changed in the car.
Right.
What can you take on? Because I can't do all of that and pick the kids up at 3.
Right.
I can't get it all done. What can you do? I think setting those
Yeah.
good boundaries like that, like you said, decide ahead of time. I think that would be a great way to set your boundaries.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes we expect other people to know that we have 2,000 things. And then we get mad when they ask us to do another thing. And we stomp around trying to figure out how we're going to get the oil changed on top of everything else. Instead of saying, hey, here's what the schedule looks like. I actually keep a schedule up on the wall in the kitchen so everybody can see it all the time. But here's what the schedule looks like. What slack can you pick up so I can do this other thing that you've asked me to do?
Thank you.
Are there other questions that people have asked or suggestions they've given or resources they've shared?
One of the best conversations that I started having back when my children were younger was being around other moms who were a few years ahead of me. That mentoring comes into play, and learning from them, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and helping me figure out that, because I had 3 littles at the same time. And it was wonderful, and I wouldn't change it for anything, but it was a challenge to try to get everything done. It was a challenge just to get food on the table sometimes at night.
Yes.
And but I also wanted my house clean. That was my own goal. My house was never spotless, but I wanted to keep it tidy and clean in case there was a fire we had to get out of the house. So there was the set expectation, and I would teach my children to clean up, and they had fun doing that, but they didn't clean the way I wanted clean, but that was okay.
Yeah.
They did that. And it's sometimes it's very difficult. I get that everyone we're talking to is in different situations.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and that's why I would love if we end this call and you're like, okay, I'm going to create some margins tomorrow. What's the limiting factor? What would make that impossible?
What's holding you back?
Yep.
I like that.
What's in the way? What's in the way? Because I haven't said anything today that we don't all already know. It's just hard.
Well, we need to be reminded before we go into this Christmas season of all the parties at home and at work, and getting ready for 2025, just setting
absolutely
good habits in place.
Because she's going to step on the keyboard. Sorry. because here's the thing, we don't have to be at all the things, and our kids don't have to be dressed in matching outfits. And we don't, I mean, would you rather have your kids happy or screaming and crying at the event, dressed in the right outfit? You know, I had to come to terms. Sorry. Maisie. Sorry. She's determined. She's really mad now. So she's getting determined. Stop. Co-workers.
Co-workers,
Okay.
yeah.
Workers. All right. Say more about that. Say more about co-workers. I can't see that, Darla. So
FOMO, not meeting expectations because, hold a second.
I'm notorious for overcommitting.
I'm notorious for overcommitting. That you were getting you were getting a little kiss, whether you liked it or not.
Oh, I was getting a little kiss. She's my supervisor. Believe me, if I'm
That's what she was saying. That was your coworker.
office too long, I
interrupting
hear
your
about
time.
it. As you can see. She's my supervisor. Are you kidding? She's a terrible boss. Anyway,
Most of them are. But
what were you saying, Darla?
I appreciate what she was saying here about having FOMO, not meeting expectations because I'm notorious for overcommitting. That is, I think that's my spiritual gift, because I want so much to
Overcommitting is your
yeah, because I
Yes.
think so much.
overcommitting is your spiritual gift.
Yes. I don't know if that's such a thing,
That's
but
funny.
it is now. But and that comes from me wanting to make sure everybody's having fun and that everybody's having the best time ever, whether they know it or not. I'm going to make sure that they're going to have the best time.
Right.
ever.
You will
I had to let go of that.
best time ever. Yes. And so we instead of asking ourselves really first, what's really important this holiday season? That's a question. What's the most meaningful to myself and to my family in the holiday season? Those are the two most important things. Everything else comes third. Because just because everybody's going to be at XYZ thing doesn't mean that's something that is meaningful to you or to your family or anybody else. And I realize there are family obligations. It's just easier to go. I get it. I have a few of those.
We all
But
do.
we all do. We all do. But if we factor those into the schedule ahead of time, then we aren't quite so grumpy about it. And as long as we're choosing some things that do have meaning and that do, make our family happy and make us happy.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with teaching our children at times that we just can't go to that.
There's that.
We just can't go to that. It's not going to work with our schedule and with the other things that matter if we go to that. And again, that's a family conversation. Like you said, Darla, you have a conversation with the whole family. What makes Christmas meaningful? Or what makes this season? What makes Hanukkah meaningful? What makes Kwanzaa meaningful? What makes this season meaningful?
So Brandy just asked, as someone who is a chronic overcommitter, we're in the same boat. How do you find the things that help you recharge?
Oh, you don't know how to have fun either. Okay. You're like me. You have to practice. I had to practice having fun because I didn't know what was fun. I had to try things. Is that fun? Do I think this is fun? Do I enjoy going to a spa? Not really, but I do love getting a massage from a really good masseuse. I love having my toes painted. I love going for a walk. When I take my dog for a walk, I do not take my phone. There is nothing that can happen in those 30 minutes that I need to be reached for. Nothing, including if my son catches a house on fire, which is a distinct possibility if you know my son. But I don't take my phone. because it's fun for me to watch my dog, play with my dog, throw the ball with my dog. I actually watched a guy one time who I guess had been assigned to play with he looked like he was 2 or 3-year-old son. And he was rolling a car down the hill and dad had to get the car and walk it back up. Dad was on a phone call while he was doing that. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Because what do we teach our kids if we're doing that? Anyway, I digress. You have to experiment to find out what helps you recharge. Does reading a book help you recharge? Does taking a hot bath help you recharge? I'm a baker. Baking is the thing that I do when I need to meditate. It's active meditation for me because I have to focus so hard so I don't mess it up. If I get distracted for a second, I've had to pitch out more cakes than you can imagine because I skipped baking soda instead of baking powder or whatever it is. But you have to find that thing. During the holiday season, I love listening to music. I actually love listening to chant, holiday chant. It's really soothing to me. But I had to learn that. I'm sorry, I can't give you specifics that help you recharge. Naps are always a good choice.
Yeah. Naps are good. Naps, for me, are very elusive. And sometimes they don't work. I feel worse because that's just the way my body's wired. But for me to recharge personally, Brandy, getting out and walking, going to some of the trails around here. One of my favorite places, if y'all have never done it, I would love to invite you to do this, is just to go over to the botanical gardens on your way home. When traffic is crazy, just wheel off into there and go walking for even like 15 minutes in the botanical gardens. It's free. It's beautiful.
It's quiet then too.
It is
quiet.
Peaceful. And that really recharges me. And I found that when I do things like that, it really gives me margin or white space to process things better and to think of more creative things and problem solving, actually. There's a lot of science about what Sarah's been talking about today, about the value of that white space and how it does make you more
It's
creative.
critical.
It is
It's
very much so.
It is critical to our well-being as much as water and air.
Very much so. Well, before anyone
I know people are having to jump off, and I'm watching people jump off.
Yes, and I want to thank everybody really quick.
I don't want to talk any longer but I'll stay. Yeah.
Sure.
I'll stay
Well,
if people want me to stay, or we can be done if people want to be done. I'm totally respectful of other people's time. So you guys tell me what you'd like to do.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here today, Sarah. And before everyone hops off, I have if y'all give me just 1 second here, I need y'all to take this survey right here that is going to be on the screen. If you just hold your phone up to that, I would be very grateful for that. And fill out our survey. We're want to do this while you are right here on the call instead of sending you an email out later on. We want to, while you're doing that, I want to thank you, Sarah, for being here for today and helping us.
I hope it was useful and helpful.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we don't need to have, well, if we plan ahead, we won't be burnt out and we won't get so frustrated during the holidays, and we can actually enjoy the holidays and plan better for coming into the next season.
Yes.
And knowing how to find not that balance, but how to find harmony with all the time constraints we have and our responsibilities that we have. And as women, as leaders too, to not take on more than what we have to. I think that is another really important thing too, that we feel like we got to take on things. So saying no.
And look at expectations. Look at expectations, what we expect from ourselves, what we expect from other people, what we expect from situations.
Exactly. You know? Yes. So thank you. But like I said, happy holidays to everyone, and please stay safe. Yeah, stay safe in all of your travels and visits and all the fun things you're going to do. And we appreciate you here at Momentum Leaders. We thank you for all of your support, and we hope to see you soon. Our next virtual training will be January 8th. we'll be looking to see you all there. So thank you again, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Momentum's virtual trainings are made possible with the support of Protective Life, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, and America's Thrift. Find the full list of sponsors as well as additional resources for women leaders on our website at momentumleaders.org. Thanks for taking the time to invest in you, and remember to like, subscribe, and share our channel. We love reading thoughts and comments, so you can leave those for us here too. You can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn by searching at Momentum Leaders.